There, you have to remind me that I put the top window open, so. Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting of the South Thompson Select Board of August 9th to order. Adjustments to the agenda. I'd like to add, consider participating in the Community Resilience Project under new business. I'd also like to, at the request of Ambulance Director Amy Drinkwater, strike item 6G, which was an executive session regarding a personnel matter. That
Actually, that's 6I on mine.
no 6G on mine.
So that's a separation for the library.
Mine's executive session.
Well, mine's G, so
That's
I'm going by
because
mine.
you got the packet before I went on vacation,
Oh.
and then Phil added a couple to the
Right.
other agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have mine.
So the new agenda is ready to go.
I got you.
but I don't have the agenda. I have the one in the background though, Tom, so. So, just to make life more fun, after a long day, I'd like to cancel executive session with, that was made at the request of Amy Drinkwater, canceling it at her request. Are there other changes to the agenda?
Yes, under appointments, Amy wanted to appoint Ryan Colson as captain.
I'm sorry, what was that? Under appointments, you want to do what?
Appoint Ryan Colson as captain.
And did you have anything else?
Nope.
And did you two have anything? Okay, and I am gonna take a few things out of order. We had one person apply for the assistant EMA director's job, is that correct, Terry?
Yes.
And that person was Becky Butler, and it happened to be her birthday today.
Happy birthday.
And there's evidently a birthday party awaiting her arrival. So I promised her that I would take that up first so she can get out of here and go to her birthday. So Becky has expressed interest, as I said, in being assistant EMA director. I think we all know her. She was. Yeah, I know she was. I'm an EMA director in town. I don't need to ask any questions. Do either of you two?
I'm good.
Is there a motion?
I'll move we appoint Becky Butler to the assistant engineer position.
I second that.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you go to your birthday.
Wait, here's the birthday card. Oh, thanks.
I mean, thank you.
I told Betty I didn't really think you
Thank you,
needed to
John.
come, but.
All right.
Okay, so back to public comment, back to the agenda, public comment for any items not on the agenda.
I'm just here, I haven't been in for a while. Just if you guys have any questions for me about the planning board or anything
Okay.
going on. Get to about 7 permits for the next meeting, applications. Getting a little busy, but handling it.
Okay, actually, we have something on the agenda tonight, I think, related to the planning board, do we not?
The bylaw,
yeah.
amendment to the bylaw.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Review and approval of the prior meeting minutes. We have July 12th and 14th, and I promised to do the meeting of August 4th. I haven't done it yet, but I will. Is there a motion or comment? Or?
I move we approve the minutes from July 12th and July 14th.
I second that.
For discussion? All those in favor? Okay, at this point, I'm gonna take up out of order, Rob Duplisser is here in the front row. I don't know if you wanna maybe come up so you can have a table. I take all the space, of course. Rob has to drive to Newport tonight, right? Or Brunswick. Brunswick, right, oh, wait, Kevin was Newport. Well, Brunswick's not as bad.
Not too bad.
Oh, you can sleeping with me, though. So, I promised Rob we would try to get him out of here as quickly as possible. And this item is tax commitment for the 12-month period, July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. And you want to walk us through what you're,
Which you want to, this is what we started with. And we ended up talking about the extra,
you
do you want to do it both ways? Which way you want to present
I don't care, however you want to do it. Let me just give you a little background. Carrie and I and Rob met just this afternoon, kind of go over the numbers, and we're glad we did, because we found a couple of differences. And we also talked about a possible scenario that we
it?
could throw in front of you for discussion tonight. So with that history,
Yes, so what you're gonna find here in with the orange highlights is the budget as we vetted earlier today. You're familiar with the form. This is the form that the state requires us to fill out to double check the mill rate and make sure it's in the parameters that we are able to live with. So what you're gonna find, the first 6 lines on this form is just basically accounting for taxable real estate, taxable personal property, which is lines 1 and 2.
can you walk us right down through
Sure.
that, because we have a new first.
Okay.
Here, and there's also some differences between last year, as I understand it. So if you can just walk us quickly line by line. I'd
Sure, yeah,
appreciate
so
it.
line 1 is a total of all the taxable real estate in town. And that is 272,031,889. And that is up a bit from last year because Annually, we go out and follow up on all new building permits that were issued, any permits that were unsatisfied last year, lot splits, anything like that, anything that would bring new value to the town, we go out and find it, discover it, and value it, and that's what line one represents,
That's as of April.
as of April
Last,
1st and
correct.
April 1st of 2022.
Yeah.
Number two, line number two is personal property. It's kind of a strange name for it. It's more business equipment. So all the business equipment in town that we have. Again, we account for it, value it. And the total for that is $771,132. Line three is just the sum of those two prior lines. 272,803,021. Line four, 4A and 4B is, everybody who's a resident and applies for it can get a homestead exemption. So it's up to the first $25,000 of taxable value withheld from your tax bill. You pay the difference, and we get reimbursed from the state. So those 4A, 4B calculations, 4A is the total amount of homesteads that we granted this year. I think it was 437, if I'm not mistaken. The total, 11,115,000. And out of that number, for the first time this year, we're getting 73% of the homestead back from the state of Maine. And that's shown again on a lower item. So 73% of the $11 million is the 8.1. It's looked at as a taxable entity, even though we don't commit it to the tax collector. It's accounted for down below. But we're obligated to break that out. And similar to that is line 5A, 5B, which is BETE, business exemption, business equipment tax exemption. Certain personal property items are non-taxable as long as the business owner applies for that relief annually. Not much here at all, $53,900 of value that's exempted. That program is reimbursed from the state at a 50% clip. That's why that number right there is $26,950. So the valuation base that we can tap from for our budget is represented in line number 6. So it's line 3 plus 4B and 5B. So the total there, 280,944,286. That's up a little less than $3 million over last year, which is fairly typical growth that we see in town. So that's a valuation base. And then under assessments, those are our three, basically our three bills. We have to pay the county every year a tax, $328,719 on line 7. Line 8 is what was voted on at town meeting. This is the gross town budget, $1,827,282. We do not have a TIF in this town, so there's nothing there. And line number 10 is our local appropriation for education, $3,635,557. 7 through 10. So line 11 is just basically a sum of those three items, $5,791,558 and change. Now from that, we're allowed to deduct certain assets, certain items. I'm sorry. Number 12 is anticipated revenue sharing. That's actually up considerably from last year. I think we had 90,000 in that line. The state's finally funding that as they promised us from years ago. It's significantly up throughout the state. So we put in $200,000 even for that. And then line 13 is other revenues. Those are revenues that were voted on at town meeting to reduce tax commitment. And that's straight from the budget that we vetted this morning, $811,651. Line 14 is the sum of those two. And line 15 is the net to be raised from property tax. And the rest of this form is basically making sure that we stay within the parameters of what the state allows. So when we have a budget, net budget on line 15 of $4,779,000, That is the minimum amount of money we need to raise to fund us, fund the school, pay the county their tax with no extra. We're allowed to collect up to 5% above that. Anything above and beyond that minimum numbers is considered what we call the overlay. So these lines here, just make sure that we don't choose a mill rate of, it has to be below line 815 and above line 17. If you took the actual minimum to be raised on line 17 divided into our taxable base, we get a minimum tax rate of 0.017014. We'll call that 17.01 mils, if you will. With a maximum of 17.86 mils on line 18. What we chose was a mill rate on line 19 of $17.10 per thousand. First starting point. So that would be our actual tax for commitments on line 9. Well, 4,664,000. Again, that is a number that doesn't include Betty exemption, Betty reimbursement and homestead reimbursement. We do not commit those numbers to the collector. It's not their responsibility, her responsibility to collect that as a reimbursement from the state. But it is a guaranteed reimbursement as we count on those funds from lines 21 and 22 to the penny. For example, line 21 is the homestead reimbursement we get from the state. If you look at that line, the 8.1 million is the same number as line 4B from above. It's what we gave out times the mill rate that we selected, $138,700. We come back to us from the state. Same way with Bet E on line 22, same idea, 17.1 mils applied to the $26,000. Well, all that checks out as intended, and line 23 is the only number that we haven't really discussed yet is the overlay. Again, the amount of money we're going to raise, a minimum that's required. By choosing a tax rate of 17.1, we would be collecting $24,240 more than absolutely necessary. Any questions on that?
But can I just point out a couple of things? On the county tax, that does not include the dispatch fees, which we budgeted for.
Right.
That's simply the assessment. And I think. Thank you.
That's what we started with. And one of the subjects we talk about every year is at town meeting, the board here has leeway to choose an amount of money, additional monies from overlay to help reduce the tax burden. And I know this is one of the things that we discussed. One of the things we looked at earlier was I always like to look at what the tax rate has been over the years to see where it's been going. Last year with that 18-month commitment, it was really hard comparison to make. So I went and looked at the 2020 tax rate, and that was $15.35. Now it's 17. To kind of soften that blow and looked at, like John mentioned, a smaller increase annually, kind of figuring what last year's would have been without an 18-month commitment. So what we have is the same sheet with some pink highlights on it. And what that would be the first highlight you would see on line 13, other revenues, $907,651. That's $160,000 extra from undesignated funds to help reduce the tax this year. 160. And I won't bore you with all the details of the math as you run down through the same calculations we did before. Line 19, which shows a lower rate of $16.50. And with that lower rate, run through the process of homestead and Betty reimbursements are slightly lower, which is to be expected. And the overlay, we like to have a nice round workable mill rate. So choosing that 16.5 gives us an overlay of 15,673 and change. So really, the options that the board has here to talk about an actual mill rate or other monies from undesignated other than what we've set up so far.
I'll point out, we have a draft audit and our undesignated fund balance is not final, but I've been through it fairly extensively. And our undesignated fund balance is heftily increased to the unassigned fund balance to $886,000 from, can't remember what it was last year, but it was
476.
something like that. So I personally feel more than comfortable like 160. And maybe more.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you know, it could go the other way next year, and I think the trick is so, in my opinion, is to avoid this. You know, you want to kind of have a nice little. But,
Walter has his hand up. I don't know if he has a question.
let me get the board first. Any questions or comments, and then I can take a comment from Walter. Just hang on 1 minute, Walter.
Yeah, I like this. Of course, you know that with that healthy surplus, I'm always pushing for using more of that surplus. But in this year, we've got two competing. One is, this is the year, for those of you who don't know, the tax thing the state did,
Yeah.
stabilization is gonna be based on this year. So anybody who stabilizes, this is gonna be the year that it'll be forever if they apply for it.
Unless they appeal it.
Unless they repeal it or quit.
It could happen.
Quit giving us money. So there's something tugging at me that says make that as low as we possibly can, because the state can subsidize that.
If you're over 65.
If you're over 65. So, but there's another side of me is we have committed this year to doing a lot of paving. And the paving cost is still skyrocketing, still high, although it should be coming down soon. And that healthy surplus could help us do the paving that we really need to do this year. So part of me wants, I think we could easily take another 100,000, actually,
Above and beyond the 160.
above and beyond 160. We could take another 100,000. And so my mind is, do we apply it to the paving or do we apply it to lowering the taxes this year? I don't want to get the taxes too low so that it's out of sync with where we have been on a gentle glide slope up. So part of me wants to throw more money at it at this, but part of me wants to keep it for the
Sue, comments?
So that instead of 100,000, do 50.
how, I guess the number, where are we at on the paving? We want to do everything we want to do.
Yeah. I'm gonna call Walter. Walter, would you like to add something?
A couple things. Can I ask that the exhibit that you vote on, can you share that? Just so that we can see all the numbers. Secondly, thank you, Jeff, for two things. One being that the Stabilization Act, which impacts a lot of us, this is an opportunity to make that as low as possible, so that it gets stabilized at the 2022 level. Can we just go back to the surplus calculation? So what I heard was 886 and change. And
Yeah.
that's not net of what was approved to apply at town meeting. Is that true or not?
What's approved at town meeting is already in the tax number.
So the 886 is above and beyond that.
No, it
No.
would theoretically,
It shouldn't be, I would think.
but theoretically, everything else being equal, which it won't be, it would reduce the 886 by whatever we have budgeted, which is a fairly substantial increase from past years.
Right.
We went to 96.
So this figure here, the 160 added, plus what we did at town meeting, will take our surplus to somewhere around 100 or 750,000.
Okay, which is more than it's ever been net.
Yeah.
You know, during my service. So I've never made this request before. But I would ask that you do more. And that if we need more paving, et cetera, come to the town and ask for it next town meeting. And I think, you know, if you do more and you get the, the jump from 1535 to 17,1 is 11 and something percent, but it is an 18-month period that you're looking at. At the same time, you know, I would ask that you look to get the handle under 7, have it have a 1.6 in it. And the reason for that is that I think that still leaves the town with more than enough surplus for a rainy day and for flexibility, and gives the taxpayers a benefit, especially those over 65 that are going to apply for that stabilization fund, to get it down as low as they possibly can going forward.
I took the mill rate from 2 years ago, the last 12-month mill rate, which was 1535, if I have my numbers correct. And I multiplied that times 1.03, and then I multiplied that times 1.03, just to give myself a sense of sort of a 3% inflationary rate. And that came out to 1628. So I was calling it 1625 in my mind. And I'd be interested if I don't know how quickly you can do this, Rob. I think we have the sheet, but if we drop the mill rate to 1625, how much additional surplus above the 160 get there? Can you do that?
Yeah, the 260 that he suggested was a mill rate of 16.2. Again, try and keep the overlay really close to what we.
Assuming the overlay is going to be roughly.
So the 160,000 we talked about earlier, the mill rate of 16.5. The $210,000, kind of split the difference, was 1635. 260 is 16.2.
I'd be pleased with the 16.2. I come back to avoiding this, and we don't know what the future is going to bring, and we may get we may get some recession, we may get a huge school increase, we may have problems we need to deal with here, and it'd be nice to have something that we not only have for this year, but maybe to kind of keep things fairly level for a couple of years. And we've never had this luxury. So I guess I'd hate to see us sort of, let it burn a hole in our pocket, so to speak. And actually drop the mill rate, which we're not talking about the way, but so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of around 16.2.
And that's an overlay of 31,000.
Well, that's pretty healthy too. Yeah.
I mean, you could even go to 1615 maybe. That's 17,000. 1615.
I can live 16.15.
So that's another, so 260,000 total.
So that would put line, I'll give you another mill rate sheet. That'll put line 13 at 1,071,651.
And that's 16.2.
That's 16,150.
So 16.
16,150, and the overlay at the bottom would be 17,000.
And some change.
Yeah, 17,343.
Even.
3 cents.
Okay.
And oh, I don't know if Walter's still there, but just for Walter's information, that still puts you about almost $100,000 above the 12% line that we usually look at. So we're still pretty healthy.
That was gonna be my next question, Jeff. So we're overachieving both your and my surplus, what makes a good surplus. So this, you guys, it sounds to me like you guys are getting to a really cool outcome here. Keep a go.
Well, we need to kick this around, or are we ready to pull the trigger?
I'm ready.
Make a motion? Okay, so to set the mill, I think well, you know what you're gonna do. Go ahead.
I move we put an additional $260,000 from undesignated surplus towards our other revenues. And set the mill rate at 16.15 with a, what was it,
17,343.
17,343.
And the full 3 cents.
What was the overlay?
I'll
We're
I'm
gonna do a
gonna
sheet.
do.
Before we actually leave here, we'll run the sheet again to make
I'm gonna
sure.
run a sheet, and sounds like, so after the vote, I'll get some commitment papers to sign.
Yeah, okay, but why don't, let's run the sheet. How long is it gonna take you to run the sheet?
A couple minutes.
Okay, maybe we'll do something else real quick. Because before we vote, I'd rather actually look at
See it,
see the
okay.
sheet. So, Walter, do you have another question, or is your hand up still?
Yeah, I just a comment. The three most important meetings that go on in the town are the town meeting, the final budget committee, select board meeting, and this meeting. And I'm really disappointed at the fact that nobody shares that opinion with me and comes to this. So in my opinion, if you agree with me in any way, to more publicize the fact that we're spending our own money, and it seems to me that I've always said all of us are smarter than any of us. So let's have more fingers on the crime, or more fingerprints on the crime, if you will. But if not, I'm comfortable with John and Jeff and Sue making all these decisions on my behalf, because they're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment on this subject?
I would like to throw not surplus as we can absolutely this year is so important. And it is an important meeting of the year. And I don't think we need to have more than $500,000.
Are you happy with the 16.15?
Yeah.
Okay. We could throw another
Hey,
$500,000, but I'm not going there.
I'm all for it, but I understand. We need a cushion.
Okay, so something we can do.
Irving has to-
Just to give you some comparison, the 17.1 would give me a $3,500 increase on my taxes, and the 16.10 is a $2,200 increase above what I'm paying now. So it's considerable either way.
Yes. Are you over 65? You don't have to answer
No,
that.
I'm not
Urban.
65. Next year.
Oh, well, if it's still around. Okay,
Might
is
be
there
the one.
something else we can quickly do?
Before April?
Yes, right.
It's up to be
Um,
for 10 years.
No. Oh, you have to be in the house.
You gotta be in the
yes,
house then.
You do. You have to be in the house.
Actually, we're gonna talk about that a little later. Rob has some information and he's agreed to stay for a couple of minutes. So I'm gonna take that up next. So let's see if there's something we can do real quick here. Is that gonna be quick?
Yes,
Okay, let's do it.
well, it depends on your questions, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So tonight, we're on the agenda for the financing options. And I brought in Tom Shook, who's a representative for Greenwood B1,
Yeah.
local salesman. And I'm gonna actually back off and let him talk about the options that they're offering that could benefit us.
Okay,
Are you?
we have some paperwork.
No, actually, it's the same picture right here, such color. This is taxes that leasing that we use. Basically, you don't owe a payment until a year out from signing the lease. And it's a lease purchase, but the truck's yours at the end of it. You have to turn it back in. So basically, you owe like $104,000 a year out from signing the lease. It keeps all of your money in your account, we're allowed to be interested in all that stuff. And also with that, they gave us 100% upfront. And it counts as a prepayment, so you guys get a discount of like $25,000 off the price of the truck too.
Okay, and so there's no bond council opinion required, which saves another
Yep.
5 or 6 grand.
Right. Yep.
And I assume it's still the same way that it's there's a non-appropriation clause, and basically the trucks are the collateral.
Yep.
Of course, you'd never get one again if you actually came and got the trucks, but.
Right. Right, and then another way we do is they should do 100% prepayment up front, and we give you $25,000 off the truck. Or you could do a prepayment of 75%, it gives you basically 20,000 off, or 50%, it gives you $12,000 off. Or you can wait till the end of it and not get any of the benefits of the money back, and just pay it all then.
The end of it being when
Till the truck's over there,
delivered.
which is going to be roughly 520 days. Or Brian's on a contract,
So 500 days now.
Yeah.
More or
Yeah.
less.
so.
Well, we don't obviously need to make a decision on this tonight.
No. But the sooner the better, just to get the discounts on the prepaid.
Yeah.
Money, some of
Yeah.
that, so.
And what guarantee or security do we have on our?
We do performance bonds and all stuff.
There is a performance,
Yeah.
All right, and that's in that cost?
Yep.
So there's no extra cost with a
No.
performance bond? So if you guys,
If
I'm
a
not suggesting
tornado,
you were, but
if a tornado comes through a Calvin and takes out the plant, we get your money back.
or if you guys go out of business
Right.
or whatever, that
We've been in
performance
business
bond.
for 47 years.
I understand.
So.
But it wasn't packing.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
okay, other questions on this? Brian, anything?
No, I brought him in because we all know how I do great with numbers, so I figured the salesman telling you this would make more sense than.
I think the
yelling at my
tax,
mouth.
that, the leasing part is kind of best way, even if you pay it all off. The truck's over.
Oh, yeah, that was another question, yeah, so there's no prepayment then?
No.
So if all of a sudden,
You have the money. you
yeah, we
pay it
have
off, pay it
2
off.
million in surplus and we want to pay 200,000 down, but.
Lease purchase is what, if I remember correctly, and I honestly don't remember who was on the board then. Back when we bought the last truck in 2015, we did the lease purchase. But I think also get as much kickback we can get is a good
Don't
thing.
use that word.
Sorry, I don't mean kickback, I mean reducing the overall price of the apparatuses would be better, sorry.
And your committee has less going in this direction.
The committee has nothing discussion with finances because it all lies on three.
So,
That's one got kind of pushed back in your guys' direction. We're all for whatever works best for the town and how we can make some savings off the whole process.
Could you send Terry an electronic copy of a boilerplate agreement?
Yep.
you don't need to send a paper one, because that'll probably ruin about 6 trees, but.
Of what, Brian signed already, or?
No, the lease, I assume there's a lease.
Yep.
Purchase agreement,
Actually, he has a copy of the application for that.
yeah, but I'm talking about the actual agreement, because, I'm sure it has the legalese, blah, 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 that's, nothing. That would be appreciated, okay, and you can get.
And whatever I've signed, Terry already has.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm not interested in what's been signed already, I mean.
No, but anything that we've discussed since we got the permission to go with them, or whenever, so the town has an actual copy of everything that's going on.
Last time you did it, how long did you do it for?
I think, the year after the truck was purchased, arrived, the truck was all paid off. I believe it went 1 or 2 years after the truck showed up, and then it was paid off.
That wasn't long.
What's that?
It wasn't
Yeah, it
long.
wasn't a long,
We had a fair amount in the reserve.
it wasn't as long as we're looking right now.
Because the longer we pay on this, the longer before we start putting money aside. The next one is 10 years.
And the more interest we pay. Okay, I think, question. Walter, do you have your hand up?
Lost the house.
Okay. Thank you, never mind.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Rob, we'll jump back to you. Take advantage of the.
Thank you.
I left to update breakdown.
Oh, great.
on that. And then that was just what we talked about. You see on line, revenue line 13 is the 107,1651, I believe. And then that puts the mill rate on line 19 at $16.15, 0.01615. An overlay on the bottom line at 17,343.03. There you go. On the bottom.
So just to humor me a little bit, on the other revenue, we're talking 214,000, that was, Terry, you can help here a little bit, that was that the excise or was it 387 the excise? Just want to make sure, double check one more time.
Anticipated revenue was 214,921, excise was 387.
387, and then 7,500 from the reserve,
Mhm.
and then the 4,000 and 2,000 from tree growth and veterans.
Mhm.
And then the new surplus number is what? You have that?
No, it was 190.
Not you, I meant Rob, sorry. 260. That's it?
260,000.
Even?
Yes.
That's over. And town meeting voted 196.
Right. So that's in July. I did it.
56. I'm doing.
Where's our other revenue?
Total revenue.
Yeah. All right, I'll play with it later, but I think that's. Huh? Oh, yes, I'm not adding the revenue share.
Yeah, that's right. It's gonna be,
You know, I'm a couple of bucks off here for some reason, but the chip material, I'll fit it. I think it's my brain. Are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of Jeff's motion? Okay. Very good. You can do tax bills.
yeah. Just, I think there's 4 places for you guys to sign on those 3 pages. The last page is just a copy of the mill rate sheet that I handed out.
Do you want to just take up out of order item? I'm getting messed up there. Sorry. Yeah, on the property stabilization. You, I know, you know, we're getting information, we've talked a little bit about it, but we'd also, you agree today to just kind of give us your perspective on
Right.
what you're hearing and not hearing, and we've already started collecting applications. We've asked people to provide proof of their age. But there are some complications, particularly if someone owned the home 50 years ago, for 10 years or something, so. And also what impact it might have on your contract, because it's gonna mean more work.
Well, I would assume there'll be more work, yeah.
It's not
So
gonna be less.
we usually have a couple of days left over every year, and doing some reviews on, but yeah, I mean, everybody's really struggling to realize how this is gonna all work out. But it is right, so anybody who's a resident of town, they don't have to have had a homestead exemption, they need to have been eligible for a homestead exemption for at least 10 years leading up to this year. They don't have to be consecutive, and they don't have to be in South Thomas, they can be anywhere in the state for any amount of time. But now they have to be 65 and meet all the other requirements. Application that just came in from the state last week, filed here at the office by the 1st of December. That's something they have to do annually by December every year. As long as if they get their application in, and we also have to notify them of their acceptance or denial. Every person has to get a letter from us saying if they've been approved or not.
Or you say us, you mean the town.
Well, when I say us, I mean the assessment office.
Okay.
So to however we want to work
Yeah,
that out,
yeah.
but just the idea of saying, it's not clear if it's an annual approval or not, but because this is the initial go of it, everybody will get a yay or nay letter. And after we gather the applications, we basically have to wait for our software provider to figure out how we're gonna update their software. Because my job for assessing property is not gonna change. I'm still gonna want to value the property like I always do. Any additions or deletions that happen, I'm still gonna assess them like I always do. So there's gonna be two, I'm not even sure how the bills are supposed to look. There's gonna be two numbers, the actual tax that should be assessed and the actual tax they're going to pay. Going to capture that difference and annually file that to the state by the 1st of November. Let them know how much less tax we're collecting for people who qualify. Don't know what that application entails. Usually the big municipal valuation return that we file, I assume it could be added to that. But I expect it to be on the mill rate calculation sheet, similar to what we see homestead exemption reimbursement and Betty exemption reimbursement as. So the things that really surprised us is you don't have to have a homestead. You need to have had a homestead. I get the fact that you don't want to. And then the taxpayers obligated to notify us that they're leaving town and going to a different municipality in the state. We are then required to notify that new town of what their burden has been here. You can have your burden at $16.15 here, move to Portland, get all the extra services that Portland provide, and still have a South Thomas tax burden. That's
why it's not gonna last.
we read that 3 times over and going, is that really right? And the thing is too, we have some towns up, up the coast that people who qualify, there's no income requirement. They're just waiting to do significant improvements to their home till they lock in their taxes for this year. So you can add on a second floor, put on an in-law apartment, kids apartment, grandkids apartment, anything.
Area lots on that.
That's in the tax, that's whatever, yeah. I still put my new value when you get the building permit for all the additions. I assess them, the tax should be here, but it stays here. As long as you apply every year. If you forget, you get, your burden then goes up to what? Let's just say next year you forget to file. Your new tax whole is next year's rate. And it will always be that way.
As long as we don't forget again.
As long as you don't forget again, just file every year. And yes, if they go down, they will go down. Tax rate goes down, you'll see a decrease, because you're basically locking in every year, so it's at the rate you're at now or less. And then when you are no longer qualifying, you're not a homesteader anymore, you sold your house, you decided to be a resident of Florida instead, the tax automatically goes back up to what it would be, no recourse. No, nothing from the taxpayer to refund the town or the state for the tax. So it's gonna make a lot more work here when a real estate agent comes in to list a house that has a homestead, has a 2.9 on it, a 290 on it. What the taxes are now, what the taxes will be for the new owner if they don't qualify. A lot of work. Yeah, so it all came fast and furious at us because it was a law, governor didn't sign it. It became law after sitting on a desk for 90 days. They just come up with this application. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to take care of all of it. But
So two questions primarily for the public. When do you become, you have to be 65 as of April of next year? Is that how I read it?
April 1 of the upcoming year. So April 1 of 2023, you have to be 65.
So if you turn 65 by next year, by next April,
By next April.
then you are eligible for this.
Right.
And personally from the town, there's a gap in what the guidance is at. So the public has until December 1 to apply.
Right.
But the town has until November 1, or has to apply by November 1 to get the reimbursement.
Right.
So anybody who applies between November 1 and December 1, the town will not get
It's
reimbursed.
always, it's a staggered year.
Yeah.
So basically, when we commit to, if this was happening today, we committed today, we would have that gap. We file the MVR with the state like we do. From filing with that MVR, it gives us our final number for Betty, for homestead, so we can get all that money back, and it's always a lag. Which is gonna be one of the downfalls, potential downfalls of the whole program, because you're gonna get a small town that doesn't have reserves. And this fund can get fairly large in a couple of years, and the state doesn't have to pay us back until
So it's gonna hurt tax.
January 15th of next year.
It's gonna hurt
So if you have a
tax.
due date, the taxpayer adheres to the due date by, we have a due date of October and then April, so we can be short.
Yeah.
Some towns can be short. And they haven't really thought that far out yet.
Yeah, I've talked to several people who engaged, this was well thought out.
Was not, and I was thinking that it may be short-lived, but you step out of our positions here, a layman, they're not gonna see an increase in their tax. And it's helping out the elderly, everybody's looking for it, the election year.
Right.
It's a great program, just poorly thought out, and how we're gonna administer it's gonna be, I can just see a lot of issues, but.
Well, that's the other question I have. I mean, in effect, this is you could argue this is a mandate. I guess we don't, we do. Yeah, so it's a mandate and it's gonna have a cost. It's already has a cost. I mean, they're answering the phones, they're taking forms in.
Right.
And there's no provision to reimburse us for that extra cost, administrative cost.
But they have to, I mean, the state
It's supposed.
statute,
it's
the
supposed to.
constitution requires it.
Yeah.
How they're gonna do it, when the homestead first started in 1998, we received $3 to $5 per application that first year. And then after that, for a handful of years, it was $1 a piece. They always asked us, how many new homesteads did we process? And then we would get, with one of the big reimbursement checks, we'd get $1 a piece, and that's kind of fallen off the last couple of years, so I'm not sure where we're at with that.
Other questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Drive safely. Amy, are you in a hurry? No. Okay, I'm gonna take up the adjustment to the agenda, consider participating in the community resiliency project. Because Meg is on Zoom. I'm sure I will be able to find that paperwork. These are all. Sarah, you passed that out tonight, right?
Yes. You want my copy, John?
Sure. I should have to find that. Yeah, I got it. Welcome, Meg.
Hi,
How you doing?
good.
So-
How you doing?
Great. Just a little bit of history here for the public. This is actually something that former Conservation Commission Chair Theo Pratt brought to our attention. It's a state initiative called the Community Resilience Partnership. And we met with Meg, geez, I don't remember when, August 4th, right? Yeah. And discussed this with her. And she's provided, we have decided to take a vote on whether we want to join this partnership, which would actually make us eligible for some grants that are related to climate change involving energy reduction, things as simple as lights and heat pumps to planning for change down the road. And we've also talked about having the Mid-Coast Council of Governments, who Meg's worked for, providing us, being what's known as a service provider, to help us walk through this and apply for grants and so on and so forth. And that would be at no cost to us as long as you're awarded the grant to do the administrative costs, as I understand it. So she has provided us with a motion, which I'll read. Town of South Thomaston commits to enrolling in the Community Resilience Partnership Program with the Mid-Coast Council of Governments as a service provider. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Meg, we can back out at any time. There's no cost to us other than, you know, time, a little bit of time trying to organize things, and you're gonna hopefully do most of that. Did you want to add anything else, or are you just here to answer questions?
I would just say that this program is designed to get funding to towns so they can lower their, can increase their energy efficiency. Like you said, it's really a broad range of things. And the enrollment process is a way for a group of people in the town to put their heads together and decide what priorities are. And then I help apply for the funding and hopefully funding comes for these projects. So it's a nice win-win.
Yeah, and it's potentially an ongoing thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Comments, questions?
The town of South Thomaston commits. Can we
Yeah, I saw that too.
can we make that the select board on behalf of, or can we make
Yeah.
it South Thomaston Select Board?
Yeah,
I'd
I'd
be
like
more
to make it,
comfortable.
I would too. It may sound like splitting hairs, but generally, when you refer to the town, it's town meeting, so. I was gonna ask if we could change that to the Board of Selectmen commits. The South Thompson Board of Selectmen commits to.
Yeah,
Select people. So is there a motion?
I'll move to, you want me to read the whole thing?
You can, one.
So whereas the Community Resilience Partnership provides grants to municipalities for activities that lower energy expenses, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and increase community resilience in alignment with the state's climate action plan and goals. Whereas the Mid-Coast Council of Governments can, at no cost to the town, help enroll South Thomaston in the community through a state-funded service provider grant. Be it resolved, the town of South Thomaston Select Board commits to enrolling in the Community Resilience Partnership Program with the Mid-Coast Council of Government as its service provider.
A second?
I second that.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Anybody from the public? Public's getting thin. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, so next step, you'll get in touch with us and, we got a fairly long agenda, so I'm gonna move along and we can talk about that at some future date. So, okay,
All right,
Thanks
thank you
very-
very much. Bye-bye.
you have enough now to proceed though, right? With your.
I do,
grant.
I need, yeah, I will draft a letter of support. That's the only thing I need from you is a letter of support, and I can draft it. If you would put it on letterhead and send it back to me for my application.
Well, should we authorize Terry to sign that?
Make a motion to authorize Jerry to sign the letters.
I second that.
Yeah, because we might not meet again for 2 weeks, and so. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Amy, we'll try to get you out of here. Not that we want to, but, so we've struck, at Amy's request, whatever the item number was for. Yeah, right. But I have to put, item, wherever it is, C, 6C on the agenda. I talked a little bit to Mindy, our auditor, when she was here. Our really only revenue producing of any magnitude is the ambulance department. And there is a mechanism, an accounting mechanism in governmental accounting and municipalities where you can establish what's known as an enterprise fund, which basically means that if the ambulance department generates, say their budget is 200,000, just to make it easy, and there's 100,000 from the town and 100,000 from anticipated revenue, but they generate, but they spend 220, but they generate 230. They actually have a $10,000, if you will, profit. It's not profit, but and that profit gets logged into or accounted for in this enterprise fund. And the ambulance, it's still the town's money, but it's sort of set aside, restricted for use by the ambulance. And I just think that why am I bleeding? That's not good. Sorry about that. Thank you. Amy. I just thought that it does a couple of things, and it's certainly nothing we need to make a decision about. Right? Can you see it?
Yeah, looks like you got a.
Oh. It's always good to have an EMT around.
Here, you wanna hold that right there while I put my gloves on?
So, can I keep talking?
You can, go for it.
So, I think it has a couple of benefits. One is it sort of provides an incentive for a department like the ambulance department.
You got a little cut right there.
I can hold it.
Blood thinner?
No.
You can hold it then. Hold it for 10 minutes and it'll stop bleeding.
Yeah, actually, I usually clot very quickly.
Okay,
That's one thing. And the second thing is, I think, actually three things. If you overspend your budget, that's okay, as long as you don't overspend your total that you're gonna have in the bank. But it sort of provides an incentive for the department to undertake activities that might generate revenue from an incentive wise. And the third thing is, I think as we think about possible regionalization, it kind of frees up, for lack of a better word, the ambulance department a little bit. So I would just put it on the agenda for tonight. I don't want to make any decisions or anything, but just to kind of put it out there as a possible way to budget for it next year. If there's any interest at all in that. So instead of the surplus, instead of the excess revenue over expenses getting close to the general fund surplus, it gets close to a designated surplus. Still towns, but that's in essence what it is. And if Amy sees an opportunity where, say her budget's $200,000, but if I spend 20,000 here, I can make 40. She's free kind of to do that under this scenario because it's an enterprise fund, so. And I guess I just ask, is there any interest in pursuing this?
I'm definitely interested. There are some things I want to look into or commit to it, though.
Oh, yeah.
There are some pitfalls to enterprise.
Such as,
Sometimes the surplus, you now have basically two undesignated surpluses, or could have.
Mhm.
Because, and it could get, that could become cumbersome for both. And so we need a mechanism so that if we reach the point where the surplus, all the surplus of the town is in the ambulance enterprise, some way for that to flow back. And sometimes they are restricted from doing that. They're not restriction from doing that.
well, that's something we can talk to Mindy about. I, in reality, I don't see that happening, but,
Yeah.
but
Well,
anyways.
Yeah, I mean, you make money every.
But she also overspent the budget by quite a bit.
Right, but it's still.
It was still under the
Correct.
total, but I mean, technically, we're not supposed to overspend budgets.
Right, so
Yeah. We could have, right? Yeah.
we can move
Yeah.
to.
Yes.
To do that.
Boy, I'm disaster here. I'm sorry. Is this on TV?
Yeah, you're believing on.
John Spear, please.
Yeah.
Now we won't let him lead it.
So,
Yeah, there's two of us here, we can stay from
Yeah.
Tuesday.
well, I just would like to explore, it. Maybe we could talk to Mindy a little bit about it, some more. But I do think that if we're serious about moving towards regionalization, even if it's just a 3-town regionalization, it certainly gives that department more flexibility towards that, to be able to accomplish that. They're not so pigeonholed into the town budget limitation, so to speak. If the group as a whole decides, oh, maybe we could buy an extra ambulance between the three of us and do transports or something like that, you know what I mean? Because I know Waldeboro, they make a lot of money from transports.
Just, and Stockton made 60 grand in 6 months in transports.
Yeah, which is just non-emergency, takes them from Penn Bay to Port.
Right.
You know, so,
But
and
you
I'm just,
also have the people to support that.
Right.
well, yeah, I understand, but I mean, I'm not sure the labor market's gonna stay the way it is forever, you know, so. So anyways, so is it something,
Yes.
okay, yes, okay, good. Mike, still believing?
No, took it south.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's jump back up to discussion of the second tranche of the ARPA funds. Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were able to Peter into the
Yes,
ARP fund.
Yep.
So, and Mindy is taking care of that in here.
Yes.
So what is our, after that's taken out, what's our current balance then? You knew I was gonna ask that question.
that's why I have it up on my desk. 79,000.
Oh,
Well, no, see, the number you have was before the repeater was taken out, right? The 79.
Right. It was 84.
Oh, so it is 79.
It is, with the repeater taken out, it's 79.
Okay,
something.
okay.
And that's that's what Mindy has in the draft, because she took it out.
this says 86.
But that's
That
before
was,
the,
before the repeater was taken out.
No, it says the repeater costs at 12,645.
Not
It
really.
leaves us 86,744.
That's in the news draft, that's not, I don't have that down here with me.
I have it, if I can find it.
So would you say it was 79?
79.
I thought it was 79, too.
Well,
She has 74099.
that sounds about right, because it was 86 something,
And the repeater
and it was
was,
about 12.
that would be 74. Yeah, okay, so that's a typo in your notes, huh? The just,
No, that was before I went on vacation. And Mindy did this while I was on vacation.
Okay. That explains that, okay. All
This
right.
is why I don't go on vacation.
Okay, all right, so we
I'm sorry,
have,
Jeff, I didn't understand you were looking at my background notes. Maybe you
Yeah.
shouldn't look at them.
well, I did the same thing with the agenda. So. Okay, so we have available roughly $74,000 in AARP funds. You don't have to spend them right away. There is a time deadline though, a couple of years away, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just wanted to not lose track of the fact and start thinking about what we want to use them for. Or start exploring what we might want to use them for. And I understand from you and Terry, who attended that workshop, that the eligibility is much freer now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
There's a category called government services, and it's the most flexible eligible use. Any service traditionally provided by recipient government, unless the Treasury says you can't do it. They outline some of them, like road building and maintenance. So
You can't.
You can do.
You can.
You can.
Okay. Yeah. And that before was prohibited. The only, well, it wasn't prohibited, but
It's very difficult.
difficult to justify. The only infrastructure that was allowed was broadband, sewer, and water originally, right? So, thoughts on what we want to look into?
I'm still, in my mind, looking at the paving that we are either gonna cut short or not do because of the funding.
Well, we could easily spend it all on that.
Yeah. And I'm not convinced I want to spend it all.
No, no.
I would like to see what our gap is. How far off we are. Maybe like out here.
Yeah.
That portion paved. There's some other things we were gonna do, but we said, no, we can't afford to do it.
Well, we kind of put most stuff on hold, which I was gonna talk about in my report where things are at, but so that's one idea, is to have some potential paving. We had also talked about, and we never did it initially, of putting some sort of ventilation system in the meeting room. I don't know if we're still interested in that or not. We talked about a potential heat pump, that type of stuff, but so I'm wondering if maybe we should, depending on whether this energy thing that we just talked about goes, what we go with that. I mean, maybe we could use this as a sort of a, not that we don't need a match, but, you know, we could marry it and potentially do some stuff there. Why don't we do this? Why don't we all kind of think about it the next couple of weeks, maybe write down some ideas. I have 2 or 3 that I, for some reason, don't feel like, can't verbalize well tonight. Huh?
Needs water?
No, I just had a long couple of days, so. So why don't we do that? And we'll get some time and so, why don't we, is there a motion to table it to the next meeting?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, discussion regarding the results of the advisory article 10. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what the vote was, but it was pretty overwhelming, I thought that. So it kind of surprised me. Is my memory right? I just wanted to stop by, I thought we should talk about it before we lose the memory of it, which I think I've already started to do. it's obviously a decision we don't have to make until we do next year's warrant. But what were people's impressions?
It appeared to me that people were supportive of it. Once they knew that it wasn't gonna displace town meeting, still gonna have town meeting. And for the most part, still had votes and discussions on the warrant articles at town meeting.
Which would be a decision that the boards of selectmen in the future would make.
Correct.
It's nothing, once you adopt this, you, the three of us can't control what happens 5 years. That's true. Or at least I won't control that. So. I mean, I think, I agree with you. We stated that was sort of our intent, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it would be the intent of 3 different people 6 years from now. But, and so Sue, did you have any impressions?
Not really.
Well, let me back up again. Let's sort of revisit it again. If we adopt this provision in the state law, we would have to vote on any elected officials except for the moderator, which currently in South Thomaston is the select board and 1 school board member at a referendum. We would have to do that. 8 to 10, 8 to 8 at night ballot, you come in here and you vote. And you could put other questions on a referendum. And it has several advantages. You get theoretically a lot more people voting. Theoretically. If you expect, particularly if you put it on another election. People can vote absentee. They don't have to be at the meeting. And there are other advantages. Yeah, I think the disadvantage is now you don't necessarily get that robust discussion that you would get at a traditional town meeting. But
We wouldn't have any discussion, would you?
no, well, you could have public hearings and stuff, but
Yeah.
people don't tend to turn out for
No.
that. So. But they don't tend to turn out for town meeting much anymore either, so, although the last couple have been pretty good. So, I mean, it's not, most towns around do have adopted.
A while ago,
Yeah.
have they been operating
Yeah,
under that?
I mean, St. George does, Cushing does, Thomaston does. Rockland has they're a whole different kettle of fish because they have a city council, but
Right.
certainly a city council election is by referendum. So I don't know. Well, we can just put it off and make that decision when we drop the warrant next year. Sound good? Oh, good stuff.
Now, is your intent that would be shared at the June, our normal voting day in June and not a separate voting day?
That would be my intent, but again, that would be up to the board of selectmen at that time. But certainly that would be my intent. that it would
And
be-
if it is on a Tuesday, when polls are closed to 8, when is town meeting going to be, the following?
Well, typically,
Tuesday, or-
it could be it could be any time, could be the last two, could be Wednesday, it could be the next Tuesday, it could be.
I think a lot of these towns have it at the municipal election and then have like a Saturday.
Yeah, some do.
St. George is the next day.
Yeah, a lot of them, I think most of them are the next day.
Yeah.
But you couldn't keep it on a Tuesday, but there's nothing saying that I mean, it has to be on a Tuesday. But the answer to your question is, that would be up to whoever was sitting in these chairs at the time. Unless there was some sort of ordinance that required it to be at a certain time certain or something.
Well, I mean, this needs to be a formal election, so if it didn't happen at our school budget referendum in June, then that would involve paying ballot clerk
Yeah.
and
Yeah. certainly would be my intent if I was sitting up here.
It might
I think-
also get more people out for that vote as well, because a lot of people don't
Yeah.
bother with that.
You know,
They don't realize, some people don't realize what the impact that is on their tax.
right. And you got the whole, you know, you can have referendum questions. You can have primaries. So, you know, you could potentially. And that's the downside. I think that could be a downside too, is, you know, you have just the school and the town election, you might get 80 people out of it, there's nothing else on it. Almost back to a town meeting size, maybe not 80, but, you know. And then if it's a hot election with a couple of hot referendum questions, you might get 600 people.
But you also might get more people that will come out and vote for it because they don't want to sit through a long town meeting.
Right. But they.
So they don't go.
Yeah.
But they might come in and take the 5 or 10 minutes that it takes them to do that.
So, well, again, it's a decision that we wouldn't have to make till we do the next warrant, and if it passes, it actually wouldn't take place until the following year, so. Well, for the select board school committee, it would, if we could have a referendum. Once it passes, select board could put a referendum question on. You know, the next week actually, but they would, but no. Okay, good. I know. All right, good. Irv, did you want to speak to us formally or here tonight, or are you just, I mean, I don't want to make you sit here all night if you actually.
Well, I've got some emails from the select board, and I just, if you guys have questions for me or anything that's going on with the planning board, I know you got your,
Yeah.
review thing, I can address that a little bit if you want to.
Okay, well, why don't we jump down to that? I just hate to make you sit here if you're not.
sounds good to me.
Okay, well,
I really don't have much to say, just
okay, well, why don't we jump down to where it is?
updated bylaws.
Yeah, I can find it. though.
Yeah, from the review,
I think I printed out new ones.
yeah. These have been down about, I don't know, half a dozen, 8 times rewritten, so I think we kind of got everything pretty much the way, you know, comment from you guys. So I took all that in consideration, board members, everything, and that's what you have in front of you now. Jeff had some changes there on the original bylaws, so we rewrote those, and then the addendum, we did that too as well.
So, just so, because there has been so many versions, are we talking about this version here, Terry?
It should be the March, the one that's the latest one is,
March
July,
18th?
no, June, well, pretty much the same, but
Well,
what we did, we had one on July 28th.
Yeah, the one you guys have that has that last one in it is what they approved.
yeah, but I'm not sure which one that
That's
is.
the addendum from July
That's
28th.
July 28th, but this morning Irvin sent around a new one that I thought I printed out, but didn't make my packet here.
And when I sent one around previous to the last planning board meeting, one of the planning board members wanted to have,
Yeah, I just want to get the right last copy before we do have any.
but anyway,
So I think the planning board bylaws, the basic bylaws, you haven't made any changes to that since March.
no,
So March 18th is good. And that's actually 2021, a year ago.
well, they were done this year too.
So where are the changes since 21?
The list that you gave me, you had some corrections, I went over those with the board, and those are all in there. And
I
then
think this is,
I can run them up here, I guess.
and then, but then if you look at the addendum, it's dated July 28th.
And,
Right.
and there was number 4 was added to this
Just number 4.
at the last.
It was actually in some of the original ones that was brought back in.
I'm still confused. All I want is the latest copy.
You don't have the latest one.
Okay, that's what
I'll
I
get
get
that to you.
No,
But I
get it
can
right
go
now.
I can go find it.
Okay,
So the addendum, there's one.
The addendum, they changed.
Terry got
it.
another one
They
this
added
morning
another
from
4.
when I asked.
They added it this morning. And actually Catherine has made a correction since this morning.
She's made a suggestion.
Yes,
No, it was, she corrected what the motion was.
Okay, but anyway, what we did was, we just added numbers for what we had from March.
Which is for what?
Paragraph 4, number 4 there. I think it has to do with, on the agenda, they want the name of the person, where the project is, and what it's about.
I'm lost. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Excuse
I have 3 here and 4 says campgrounds.
No, you got the wrong one.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You've got permanent establishments serving alcohol, that's been added since.
That was added as well, yeah.
Why did you add that?
Because that was brought up by one of the planning board members. They wanted that in there.
You know that the select board,
I understand that, yeah, as I told them, yes, I know. We don't have any say in that. That would have to go through you anyway. That was explained at the planning board meeting.
yeah, so I don't know why you put it on this.
I think it's for the public, for a public hearing, if anybody had any, want to speak pro or con to it.
The select board does that.
Okay, if somebody comes in with a commercial operation and they want to serve alcohol, that might be, are you gonna have a public hearing on that?
We may or may not.
May or may not.
But
We
it's
may
the
or may
select
not.
board's decision to do, for them.
That's not my idea, I'm just,
Right, I'm just trying to figure out why you put it on there, because having a public hearing for serving alcohol is state and select board, not planning.
All right.
And so your question to them as a planning board is, do you have your state permits and have you talked to the select board about?
Serving alcohol.
Correct.
All right.
And so, because you would not be able to do anything functionally. Somebody came in,
That's not in our realm, I know.
so,
Get rid of it.
so I don't think it,
I can take it out.
personally, I don't think so. The only other.
It's not on the table of use, right, is it?
No. All. If you go into the table of uses, the only place it even kind of hints at is when it talks about restaurants that serve food or beverages.
But my point is you could, right, but the planning board could permit a restaurant. And then whether or not they serve alcohol would be a decision that would have to be made by the select board and, by the way, the state.
Correct.
That, it's really, I mean, theoretically, could the planning board say we're permitting this, but we're not allowing alcohol? I don't
This is
think.
for notification, what you're looking at. That's not, I mean, that would be like something that we would do to, if you don't want a restaurant serving alcohol next to your house. You know what I mean? You could come into the planning board and comment.
You couldn't.
Well, you could.
It would be
Comment.
moot. It would be moot, because the planning board could take no action based on it. It would be the select board that could take action.
I understand that.
So it would be the select board.
I'd rather not deal with it anyway, but
Right.
I'm just saying,
And just to give you the background, the state has put out guidance on serving of alcohol. The town has, in a town meeting, actually 2, 3, have voted whether we can serve alcohol in our town and what we can and can't sell and what days we can sell. So it's not a planning board issue at all. It is a state issue and a select board issue.
Okay.
So there would be no reason for the planning board to even listen to somebody, whether they wanted alcohol next door to them, because you would not be able to say no to the restaurant. You would not be able to hear that person's complaint. It would go nowhere.
I wouldn't say no anyway, because it's probably allowed use.
Exactly.
So if I'm worried about it.
So it becomes moot as to why you would even do that.
Okay.
So, I have a couple of comments. One is in number 2, it says the size of the sign. I assume that's a typo. So I assume this was to mean the size of the sign. And then it also refers to a town sign ordinance, and I don't, we don't have a town sign ordinance, right? is there signage in our land use ordinance?
No. The only place it is in our shoreline zone.
So it was determined a while back, maybe when you were on board, that the largest sign that they could have is the same size sign that we have out here
Who made
for
that?
a business.
Who made that?
That was brought up in the planning board meeting years ago.
So, but it's not an ordinance right now.
There, what was the, we did do a sign ordinance, so we did, that never got passed.
No, we have discussed it several times,
Okay,
and it has not been done. And part of it is because it is more complicated than it seems.
oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. But my point is, we shouldn't refer to an ordinance that we don't have.
Right.
Okay, I can scratch that off.
So I don't know how it would read, but it would say the size of the sign must be at least, but not larger than four square feet. I don't know.
Right, you can do that.
Huh? I mean, I don't know. And.
Just mark it up any way you want.
And then I get confused on 3. It says letters of notification are required in either of the following cases. Commercial uses greater than 10,000 square feet or industrial construction. And site disturbance of 2 acres or greater, including building site and access road. So that requires a letter of notification. The planning board meeting agenda shall state the applicant's name, address of the project and the proposed use of the project, which seems to, but then it says proposals requiring planning board approval and concerning the following will require a public hearing. So am I understanding this correctly? The only thing that requires public notice is commercial greater than 10,000 square feet or industrial construction or site disturbances. So all these other things don't require public notice, junkyards, motels. Am I reading that right?
No,
I think I am.
okay. but
Proposal requiring planning board approval doesn't say anything about notice.
The whole thing's about notice.
It isn't though, it's not what it says.
All right,
It says letters of notification are required in either of the following cases, and then it lists 2 cases. Then it says, then it jumps to a different subject. Then it says, proposals requiring planning board approval concerning the following will require a public hearing, but it doesn't say you have to provide notice of that hearing. It simply says you got to provide a public hearing.
we always provide notice of public hearings.
Are you saying that you could have a public hearing without telling anybody you're having it?
Well, it doesn't, no, it doesn't require the letter of notification. It's the way I'm reading this.
Okay, we have 2 out right now, they're all getting letters of notification.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what the language is. It doesn't say, and then it says letters of notification that when required are sent by the, well, that should be the town, so no big deal, capital C.
Yeah.
Be a first because letter.
So you don't have to send a letter of notification every time, it's when the board asks for it. And lately, they've been asked for it every time.
Well, that's not what 3 says. 3 says letters of notification are required for 2 cases
Right. And then the other ones, you can't.
if you want to, which I have a problem with it being arbitrary.
There was none before this.
I know, and that's a problem. And then I don't understand, jumping down to the last, I don't understand how land use applications received within 72 hours of a scheduled monthly meeting may receive excuse me, wrong one. Land use applications may be received by the planning board for complete review up to 72 hours prior.
Right.
So does that mean you actually could issue the permit?
If somebody brings in an application, the normal procedure is we review it and see if it needs any notification to neighbors, or we have any questions, then usually the following meeting it will get approved.
But
But where you're saying, what I'm saying is somebody, what we're having trouble with is when we used to, somebody would walk in, or see the code enforcement that day, or they want to get, the project started, they want to come in less than 72 hours.
yeah,
So we can listen to their proposal, but we won't act on it on that month, we'll have to act on the next month.
so what does complete review mean?
As initial review, kind of, but the complete review would be when you do your performance standards.
So theoretically, you could issue a permit then at that meeting? The first meeting?
No,
As
well,
long as
the only
it's-
ones we'll do for that is like demolition, or if something's been done by the DEP where they have all the approval, say for like a float or something like that. With those, that's a non-commercial float, like somebody wants one in front of their house. Those could probably be done, but any kind of structures and stuff like that, normally be 2 meetings, sometimes if a public hearing, be probably 3 meetings.
Yeah.
Nothing's done, no.
So my biggest issue is I thought we were gonna have notification provided for basically everything in 1 through 8. And I don't think this requires that. It requires a public hearing, but it doesn't require notification.
Well, we can put that in there, that's easy enough.
I mean, was that our intent?
I think we've had just, there's been very, of course, like I've said, very little interest about notifications within the town, except for a couple of people. So that's what's been the driving force for this. So we're trying to get something that's fair for everybody. And we can add notifications for all those things as well. Certainly you would, because those things are all more major things than minor things. You know what I mean, project wise. Second to the junkyards and gravel pits and campgrounds and stuff like that. People like to know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would be happy personally. I think there's more interest in notification than you might think, but that's, I don't want to debate that with you, but I would be fine if it said, proposals requiring planning board approval and concerning planning board approval, I don't know how to wordsmith it, but we require a public hearing and notification and get rid of 3.
Okay,
Although you'd have to add B into the other list.
You don't necessarily want to do a public hearing for site disturbance that's 2 acres or greater.
that came up because of the,
Well,
2 acres is quite a big area.
that's a big area to
Yeah.
disturb.
Yeah,
I would think you would want to, but I actually like the list. I just think that, everything on the list, which actually is not 9, if you strike the alcohol, it's, because A is already on, is 1, so it's really only site disturbance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. I'm happy with the 8 things that are listed, but I think they both should require a public hearing, and if we're gonna have a public hearing, it should have notice.
okay, that's being done. All right,
I know that, but
You put it in there.
I want the language to say it,
all right,
because you might not be there forever.
maybe not, I'm gonna get quiet. Let me know if I'm again.
Okay,
The only other thing I've got is in the basic bylaws, number 12. Where it talks about planning that the select board has to approve it. The last shall, I think, should be stricken.
where are you?
Number 12.
Yeah.
Okay. So any proposed bylaw amendment must be presented in writing
In written form.
written form at a regular or special board meeting. The amendment, after having been considered in final written form by 2 regular or special meetings of the board, shall, after a majority vote of the board, be forwarded to the select board and become effective upon the approval of the select board. The word shall means that we have to approve it. We could send it back or not approve it or do whatever we want. So I think you need to take the word shall out.
Okay,
The rest of it, the rest.
Okay. And you said you wanted to give us some other update?
well, the only thing is, well, we got think 5 permits coming, let me see, from one individual. We got another permit for the event center down there. They got want some clamping tents. One guy wants to move his business from the village area to an R1 area, planning, buying, construction business. So we'll be hearing that.
That's,
So that, yeah, Mr. Wilson. So we'll be doing that one
He's also submitted applications to expand up here too, though, right?
on a, yes.
Yeah.
On a different lot, it is purchased later. So then we'll be hearing that. And then the solar people will be making a presentation. There was a
Existing solar?
new solar, new solar. And I really, I don't know what they're gonna give us. I don't know where it's gonna be yet. They're gonna come just do a presentation at the planning board meeting.
Oh, they didn't fill out an application.
No, they're not gonna fill an application. I did receive a call from them at home, and I told them, basically what we'd like them to do is come in and tell us what they wanna do first, and then we'll work with them as we can to get it going. So that was the permits, yes, is for another 100 by 100 in the village area. There's a modification of his current business. It's in Chrome since his original application, so that needs to be updated. There's a couple of applications for that. And then like the solar people and one was, they had one at they were gonna have a classroom at the school, at the church, but they withdrew on that. So that was one of the other ones. And that one, they never came, so.
And this public hearing schedule was set at 5:30
5:30.
on the saltwater, what is it called?
Saltwater.
Field.
Saltwater field will be there and the
Wilson.
Wilsons. Okay.
That could be a long half hour.
Well, see what's coming. We try to quote to people that have the same interest, but I have one spokesman and it usually doesn't go too bad. And
Okay.
The neighbors have been there for the initial Wilson. There was a concern there, so he was there at the last plan we'll meet as well.
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay,
Okay, good. That it?
that's all I got for now.
Okay. thanks for
Any
coming.
questions, give me a call.
Okay.
And can I get those papers from you so I can make some adjustments to that? I know yours is just shall, I can remember that. John, I guess
Well, yeah, I don't know, you can make heads or tails of what I did though, but yeah,
I guess I just want to get the gist of it.
yeah. Terry, could you make a copy of that?
There you go, and then I can take care of that.
Yeah.
I want to get that done before the board meeting next week.
I don't know if it's gonna make sense to you. If it doesn't, call me.
I will.
Don't call me tomorrow.
But pretty good, I don't know, they haven't started the other solar construction of that, I don't believe yet, at 131, so.
That's huge, me, 32 grand.
Thank you very much.
If I remember correctly.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've been jumping around here so much. Discussion of possible creation of recreation. Thoughts? I don't have anything new to add, but
still leaning towards either ad hoc or unrecognized. It's unsanctioned.
Sue, got any thoughts? Or
I think an ad hoc committee would be fine for that, at least to start out.
it's still committee. Yeah, or not, it's gotta be, then they gotta do minutes and postings and other things that Terry posts and I just don't personally see the need at this point, but you guys,
I mean, what do we have? We have the skate park and the tennis courts and the basketball.
Yeah.
Is there more involved with that?
well, playground,
Playground.
Playground.
yeah.
What about a recreation group that just meets here and that we can,
Well, we kind of have that with the tennis courts. and that's kind of what I would rather do, just have an informal.
Oh,
If
we got a
someone-
bunch of names at town.
If
meeting.
someone's interested in the skate park, they could get together, and personally, I don't have, even though I've done some work on the skate park, I don't have a lot of interest in it. But I do have a lot of interest out here.
Okay, so we did have some people sign up.
Yeah,
and-
to
and
express
there's
interest, right,
recreation.
yeah. But if somebody wants to organize a working group to talk about repairs and whatever to the skateboard park, I think we already got one for out here. We can add people to that group. I'd be happy to.
No, I'd like to see one dedicated to the Gilbert Butler ground. The
Aye.
park and playground and just,
I'm fine with that.
but you're saying, do whatever you want, so then you're dropping it on me again. to
No,
organize.
not you. Whatever this group wants to do, you know?
But if they're not a group,
Yeah, I
then
don't know.
it's falling against the library to organize, which is fine. But.
There isn't someone down there that, it doesn't have to be you personally. Couldn't someone take
Well,
that
I
on?
think some of them signed up.
So maybe somebody could take that on. I mean, I'm sort of heading up the group out here, and I will volunteer to continue to do that.
Were they doing something about the return when they were grouped at skate park?
It turned out to be
Me,
two guys showed up and then loaded the trailer way over where it was supposed to be.
I have pictures of that.
And Artie and I had to go down and unload it, and put it so they could haul it away. It would have been simpler if they put it on the ground, and Artie and I loaded it to begin with. So. Okay, well, it sounds like we're not interested in having a committee in the formal sense of the word, where they gotta do minutes and postings and that type of stuff. And we got a working group out here, and hopefully somebody can pull together a working group for down there, which won't be me. It won't be Penny.
No, it will be. Obviously, this is what it's coming down to. So can we meet here? Can Terry send out, okay, the recreation group, the
Go out.
GBC recreation group will be meeting on this day. And it could be there. I don't care. So can we
Yeah, why
somehow?
don't you just
Yeah, why I would
meet down
be there, because then you're more central to what you're,
Yeah, you can walk out and look at
Discussing
stuff.
Can we get notice through?
Put it on the list,
or-
sure, yeah.
Okay.
And I haven't been doing that with the tennis, but we could do that. I mean, the tennis working group is only me and Gail and Ed, although I think he's sort of faded. Rich is the most, and you. And if anybody is interested, anybody else is interested, I mean, maybe I should put it on the list or maybe get some more help.
Well, when we did work out there, we had.
We
quite a
did, we had
crew.
a lot of people come, right, yeah. Okay, good, I think we're there then. All right, we dealt with this, appointments, we dealt with the health officer, we have,
Did we?
excuse me, not the health officer, the assistant EMA director. Representative to the cooperative solid waste.
That is now going to be me, if you guys so choose.
So the idea with Walter staying is,
Yeah, he really wanted to stay through the last meeting.
okay,
So he's now ready.
well,
He said he'd stay longer if I thought my health was gonna get in the way of it. I don't think so.
okay, so is there a motion? Unless you want.
I'm not ready to do that yet.
Is there a motion to appoint Jeff as the select board representative to the Owls? South Thomaston Owl's Head Solid Waste Cooperative. Is there?
I make the motion to
Okay.
I second.
say move, yeah.
So moved.
I'll second it. All those in favor, further discussion, all those in favor? And you can go talk trash. Okay,
Walter left the book big book for you up in here.
That's what he said. He said,
Okay, we have one applicant, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, for the Library and Community Center Facility
Yes,
Committee, and that's Kathleen Lerm.
Yep.
Is there a motion?
I move we appoint Catherine Worm to the Library and Community Center facility.
I second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Now, does that fill that committee out?
yes.
Okay. Health officer, we actually have two people who have expressed interest. Betty, and she expressed some interest some time ago, and I spoke with her. And she is still interested and is willing to do it. And we also have Cliff Dasco, who is MD and a permanent resident now, and he's more than an MD, actually. He was director of Baylor Research Medical Facility or something, so. And he's also willing to donate his salary back to the town. But I think that could be a problem. I do think we should pay him at least $1 a year or something.
Yeah.
And that way it's covered by workers' comp. Or $100 a year or something. But I talked to Betty about that and she said, oh, that would be wonderful if he's willing to do that. So
I feel better.
he said that he would be willing to do it, but he didn't want to step on anybody's toes. So they're both like dancing around. But I would strongly recommend that we appoint Cliff. I mean, I think to have someone of his medical training and knowledge would be great. Is there a motion?
I would move to appoint Cliff Dasco to the health officer.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Further discussion? Do we want to amend that to, we can deal with the salary at another meeting. I'll talk to him again.
Yeah.
It'd be cleaner if you took it, if you took the money and then used the first taxes. That would-
Yeah, the trouble with that is if we weren't willing to donate it, the feds get this year and then
Yeah.
we only pay them a couple of bucks, then it doesn't go to the feds and the state. So, but we can talk about that before we cut them a check at the next meeting or something. So,
Make sure that's for you.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll want to donate it to the Knox clinic that he's also volunteering a lot of time on too. So Owen Thomas is there. So, and they're having a lot of success getting grants and stuff. Okay. Further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those are both for, well, Captain Lerm is that's ad hoc, so that's ongoing, but the others, Betty, and we didn't specify it, but those would be one to meet the second meeting following the next town, meeting, correct? And is that it?
Ryan Clausen?
Oh, yes. I don't know Ryan Wilson. Is he currently on the ambulance service, I assume?
I move we appoint Ryan Colson to captain of the ambulance service.
I second that.
Was there currently someone in this, or was that a new position that was created when we reorganized it, sort of cost neutral?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
She said she'd come back to us later.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We've done the planning board. We've done the tax commitment. We've done all the adjustments. Local road assistance program form, we need to certify that. Basically, that says that we spend at least $13,288 on our roads, correct? Or more. There's a form here. Who has to sign it? It's the town manager. We don't have a town manager, so I guess.
Municipal offices.
Okay,
I have the form right here for you to sign.
okay,
I have a whole folder for you to sign.
okay. Is there a motion to, basically, this is grant money that we get, not grant money, but money from the state. It's not much, it's based on a per mile basis. And we have to certify that we're gonna spend it on roads, which we budgeted into our road budget every year.
So moved.
Second,
Second that.
okay. You have questions on this, Sue?
No.
Okay.
It seems to be going down.
It does seem to be going down. I thought it was 16.
That's exactly what I thought.
I don't know what we budgeted, but I didn't think it was 12. Actually, I'm willing to vote for it because it probably isn't gonna get changed, but would you mind giving them a call? Because I think it used, and check and see, because I think it used to be like 16. I just want to make sure they haven't taken a road off or something and tell using the wrong mileage. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? I could have sworn it was 16.
Yeah, that's what it was for Rouge.
And as a matter of fact, I thought that actually went up when the town accepted saw blade and
Oh, that's right.
went up a few bucks. Okay. They're gonna just give you a song and dance. ACO report, that's just a written report, correct?
Yeah.
Terry, is that working out okay?
Yes, seems to
While we're on the ACO report, I'm just gonna bring up some, the crisis of the day at the town office. Somebody on Westbrook Street spilled 4 barrels of bait into the road this morning. And nobody knows who did it. A lot of it was picked up, but a lot of it was just shoved into the ditch, and it's starting to stink bad. People called the town office, want to know what we're gonna do about it. And I happened to be here and I said, well, that's illegal dumping, call the sheriff's department. So I guess people called the sheriff's department, and then an hour or so later, they called back and said, don't tell people to call here. Even though to me, it's illegal dumping, they should investigate it.
Right.
They just, and it's all mixed into the brush, and I have no idea what to do about it. And I'm going all day tomorrow, and I'm not gonna answer the phone. I
Maybe the
did,
wildlife will take care of it.
Yeah.
I hope so. There's a lot of it.
A lot of
They're
raccoons.
They're big white fish, maybe that big, fat. I'm sure it's big, but I don't know. Hopefully that is. I did talk to Skip Connell. He said if someone's willing to put it in totes, he would go up there, put it on his boat and take it out and dump it in the middle of the ocean. He also suggested, I called Travis Travis Thompson.
Mhm.
He said there's a guy named Mecklin that would take it and has some sort of site that they get rid of their bait. He's in Cushing. He was gonna send, I think, you his name, but he's not gonna come pick it up. I mean, he'll come and
Once
we
you've got
didn't-
it collected. he'll-
yeah, he might,
Yeah.
well, he might, Travis said. You know, I guess he's got some sort of state permitted composting facility in Cushing, and he can. The other option, somebody suggested, Skip, was to smother it with lime, huh?
Bury it.
Well, yeah, but we have the authority to bury stuff on the side of the road, so I don't know where that's going, but people are really upset, aren't they?
Yes.
I mean, really upset.
Yeah.
So have fun tomorrow, Terry. I'm out of town.
Where is it?
Just next in line.
Right, as you go down the hill, the
Like
first junkyard on the right, it's right next to the driveway or the little road that goes in just before the first driveway on the right.
Little far from Beaver.
Huh? The trouble is, if they had left it on the shoulder, well, the other thing is you just can't go out there. I stopped. You get killed up there.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta set up signs. This is no little easy task.
Have the fire department hose it.
Well, I don't know. Would that make it worse? I don't know. I'm not gonna worry about it. And it's not in the road, so it's not the road commissioner's job. I still say it's illegal dumping. I was checked with the sheriff, telling people not to call me. If I want to call and complain about illegal dumping, I have a right to call about illegal dumping. You know? All right, I don't know how we got off that on the HCO, but it sounds like it fit in there good. So Terry might have trouble tomorrow.
Colin's sick.
Yeah.
Go
Feel free to
report.
come along.
I can't do it tonight, but I will prepare what I think you're looking for. But in the more immediate term, they're basically done with the island project today, with the exception of the overlay pavement, when the plan at this point is to do an overlay from 73 where they ground
Mhm.
to the bridge. And overlay the entire area, including the project area. And hopefully the overlay that's on the project area, we can get reimbursed for. But I don't have the final bills and stuff in, and there is an there is a asphalt escalator in their contract, and whether they're gonna execute that or not, and how much that's gonna be, I don't know yet. And I didn't really want to ask and remind them that it was in there. I'm sure they don't. We did have three relatively minor change orders. One was to ditch from where the town stopped ditching by the Hui Dumps down to the new culvert right in the V. That, to my surprise, was not in the contract. I thought it would have been. So when I had to stop there because I thought it was going to be part of the project, but it wasn't. We had one little driveway where the woman asked if he could come up 2 or 3 feet more because she said they were backing over it, and so it's done. And then the other driveway that they discovered was a grading problem, and that was like $2,900 or something like that. And that's it. Other than the overlaying the entire thing, which was never the plan, but we decided to do that because the engineer in Hagel was just amazed at the amount of truck traffic and stuff, and they just think that it needs the greater thickness going down through there and tie it all together and stuff. So, so that's that. Pleasant Beach, the south end of, the south end of Wadham's Beach is, the states come in and they dug out the triangle. I met with Performance Paving today. They're gonna come and pave that in, the states marked it out. Once that's paved, small area there, the state's gonna come back and cut the hot top out on the sides and remove it, and then we have to loam and seed it. And that'll be done. Everything else, I've kind of put on hold for now, just because of the prices. But I am looking at, I got a price from Hager to if you look at Westbrook Street, there's a couple of sections that have just fallen apart. And everybody, I talked to Jerry, I talked to Andrew, picked his brain, the engineer from Gartner Dorsey. Everybody thinks we're crazy just to repave that again. We didn't pave it that long ago. It's all broken up again, that we should reclaim it. You know, they come in, they grind it up, compact it down, then pave it. So I got a price from Hagen to do that initially, and then they've upped it. And so I'm getting a price from Performance. I still would like to do that. And the suggestion I got from Andrew, no, not Andrew, from Performance and Hager was pave the base, let it sit there for a year, and then pave the overlay next year. And that way, if it settles it all here and there, you can correct that with the overlay peg. So I'm looking at that. And all the other paving is on hold, but I will try to figure out where we're at once everything gets kind of squared away down here. So, but remember, we had a $40,000 contingency in that, not contingency, but you know, Hager's bid left us with a $40,000 contingency. So I think I'm hoping that the asphalt escalator isn't crazy. We're gonna be okay down there. We'll try to get anything we can into the project as long as there's enough money, because they reimburse 78% of that. So we can stretch that out, so that's kind of where that's at. And if anybody asks, why is no bump sign at the big bump next to the bridge, is because 2 have been stolen so far, and 2 have been written on in black magic marker that says, fix the ing bump. So he says, I'm not putting another sign. And I wasn't gonna argue with him. So,
Wow.
and they're not cheap.
Good thing we put speed bumps.
I know. I think the speed bump discussion's over.
I think
So, I don't know if you got any questions of the road commissioner, but that's kind of where we're at. We good for now?
I'm good.
All right, I'll try to do that and tally together once everything gets put together. And we may still be able to do some more this fall. If prices come down. They've actually, you can go on the DOT website and they have an asphalt escalator price, which all these contracts are tied to. And they haven't come down, or they hadn't, but they flattened. The last 4 or 5 are the same, so they've stopped rising. So, okay, MMA annual election. I don't know any of these. I used to know people on these, but not anymore, so. But it says vote for 3. Vote for 1, vote for 3, it's only 3 candidates, unless someone has an objection.
I don't know any of them, so.
I do know Dana Hines a little bit. Know of them. But I mean, I like the idea of having someone who's the vice president who's from a small town. So, not Portland or. Is there a motion to approve this slate, or we not want to participate?
No, I'd like to participate, so I move we approve and sign
Slate of
the slate as presented.
Second that.
discussion? All in there. So Terry, can you fill us out and we can sign it and,
It's, I think it's in this.
okay,
All done. Right.
all right. Correspondence, from Knox Clinic.
You missed one.
You did?
Accept donation for library.
Oh, it's not on my agenda.
Okay.
Oh,
Should be
somebody.
on the new one, John.
I don't have it when I wrote
You-
notes all over this one. I'm not gonna.
You came and got a new one.
Wow.
The
let me
donation
tell you.
is, yes, it was $500 from Elizabeth Blunt.
All right, is there a motion?
I move we accept $500 from Elizabeth Blunt to the library.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor? And we-
Yeah, you can do a quick update as department head on the
Huh?
library.
What's that?
May I give you a quick update as
Sure.
department head? The sprinklers heads in the lower level were replaced today.
Yeah, we saw they were coming, so they actually came.
They took various samples of the upstairs ones to be tested in an oven somewhere. They replaced the big inlet on the outside of the building where fire department can hook the hose up to it if need be. What else was there? We are actually, I don't know if you've executed the lease for the historical society. You have.
They came and signed it finally. And
Well,
we-
that's good because we have been putting stuff in there.
In where? In,
In the Little Red Schoolhouse.
oh, well, it's theirs now. I mean, they're renting it.
Well, I'm speaking as a member of the historical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're getting ready.
Okay, I thought you meant yours. I was gonna say, well.
Well, if you hadn't executed the lease, then we were doing it as a library thing, but since we have.
And Phil called, as I understand, last week to get the heat and the electricity transfer, correct?
Yes, and I found out they were running that dehumidifier in the basement at 40%.
Oh,
and that's why the bill went up $40.
Well, that's up to them to pay now, right?
Right, well, I turned it up to 65, that's all it really should be down there.
Yeah.
40. So, anyway, Heritage Day is Sunday, open house 12 to 4. There will be a little London Schoolhouse exhibit, well, quite a nice one going on in the schoolhouse. And then their, meeting room, the band concert at 2 p.m. with the New Coast Community Band in Memorial Park. And then the following Sunday, the library is going to host the Guilford Butler School reunion, 12 to 4. And we have also expanded on Thursdays and Fridays. While we are open for the various activities, we're also going to have open library hours, just to well utilize the building.
Is that something we could get to Terry to get on the website?
Yes, I will. I'm going to update
Yeah.
her. And the Owlshead Library Board is now meeting in our Learning Center meeting room. And their book club will start meeting there because they have no room for these kinds of activities, so.
Good, great.
And the PEO, the Philanthropic Educators Organization, are also using our meeting room for their activities. So things are happening.
Yeah.
Oh, and Thursdays are going to be the fiber arts group in the makerspace and games in the community room. So cribbage, Scrabble,
Can
what
I,
have you.
can I ask a question?
What?
I kind of pressured Jimmy to get that fill down there.
I know.
As quick as he could.
Well,
Because
it's been
everybody-
so hot and my tractor guy,
And it's been sitting there for weeks.
Well-
I feel bad.
well, but he is working on the closer entrance to the,
Okay, I just,
which
I feel
that's
bad.
more important for safety. I know.
I feel
but
bad
it's-
because he donated trucks and he did it right away.
I
at my
know,
urging.
it's been so hot though that,
Yeah, okay.
know.
He hasn't said anything to me. I just feel bad.
and I'm still looking for some sort of old piling or something to use to.
Yeah. Yeah.
A tree trunk. But it's been heat, the heat's been our major.
While we're talking about buildings though, and that's not on the agenda and I'm digressing a little. I did meet with John Hanson about the issue out front here with the roots and the washout. He says that he thinks what's happening is the water, that roof is so big that the water comes and rushes over the gutter. And he didn't think there was much you're probably gonna do about that, but he did say that the berm where those plants are has actually made the situation worse because now it's kind of trapped behind. So he suggested that we fill in behind that, come high up on the concrete and get it so it drains out and cut a couple of channels in the berm, because I don't think we're gonna move those plants. And I talked to Ralph Devens about that, and he's working on that. He's painted up the complicating factor is there's 2 cellar windows there. So he's painted those up and he's gonna put those wells around them. And we're gonna try to get that lifted up. And he's painted the trim on the doghouse. We're gonna try to get a gutter on there and try to get some of that water away from there. So he's slowly working on it. So just to give you an update on that. Excuse me, Knox County Clinic. What do we, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I haven't read this.
You're looking for money.
And we gave them, is this something different?
It's the same.
Yeah, okay, this is the organization we gave 5,200 the first tranche of the AARP funds,
Yep.
right?
And they're targeted, it's more in the county.
And they got a
And-
couple of
and-
huge earmarks from the Fed, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, why don't we throw this into our list of AARP possibilities and not make a decision tonight? Do they have a specific request? Okay, why don't we do that? Is that, everybody's agreeable with that?
Yeah.
We can go into the competing plot. Anything in particular we need to talk about on the next agenda? Somebody wants, I mean, obviously we'll carry some things forward that we'll table and stuff, but anybody have anything they wanna initiate? Oh, we haven't dealt with the audit. I knew there was something. I missed that. Tax amendment? Wasn't that on here?
I don't see
It was, but I thought you said you wanted to.
I did, but it was, I thought it was on the agenda. Wasn't it, Terry?
I thought Phil said he put it on
It was supposed to be on the agenda. Well, anyway, since it's not on the agenda, we don't have to deal with it, but, we have the draft audit report, which, you know, I went through it in quite a bit of detail. I have several questions. Terry has some of the same similar questions. Terry and I met, and we actually,
there. Oh, it is there, John.
no, I don't see it.
It's H.
H, yep.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
I don't have an H.
That's because you
Oh, I got the
lost your
damn-
agenda.
I didn't lose it. I used the was one. Don't go on vacation anymore. All right, so we do have to deal with it. We were supposed to meet, Terry had arranged a telecon with Mindy, our auditor, for Monday, was it?
Yes.
Yesterday, and she had to cancel. And her schedule, she could do it. We might be able to hook up again this Friday morning if, except she's taking her teenage daughter to a driver's test and she doesn't know, one, how long it's gonna last, and two, if it's a disaster, how long it's gonna go.
Are you talking about the Zoom,
So,
the Zoom meeting or just the telephone?
no, just, I think just a telephone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're back.
Yeah. I have several questions, so I'd like to put off accepting this until we get through that. And if any of you guys have any questions, we can't actually meet because then it would be a meeting, but if you want to get them to Terry or me, if you have some specifics, anybody, we can relay them. Or I suppose we could set up a meeting if you got a lot of questions with a telephone conference with Mindy and you guys. Or we could set up a meeting if it gets to that point. Do you have a lot?
No.
Do you? Okay. Terry and I actually had several of the same questions, which is a good thing. So, okay, so we'll try to make that happen before the next meeting.
So you're just gonna. table it till the
Yeah,
next
so
meeting?
is there a motion to table it to the next meeting?
Second.
For discussion, all those in favor? Okay. We got warrants for approval. Schedule future meetings. I don't even know where we're at.
We have August 23rd scheduled, and I believe that's it.
Ooh.
Oh, and the 18th.
Oh, yes, the 18th, that's a
No, we have something with 7,
We have the 17th.
7th,
August 17th.
right, because the 18th is the
That's
planning
the
board.
workshop, 17th is planning. Hope you,
Yeah, no, it's good.
okay,
What's on the 23rd? I didn't have anything.
our next select board meeting.
Okay.
We schedule that. And we better pick some September days, because if we don't, you know what happens.
Yeah.
Can you believe we're talking September?
Oh,
So the 13th and the 27th would be our normal.
Okay, I think that works for me. Yeah.
I gotta get out of jury duty.
Huh?
I said, I gotta get out of jury duty.
So the 13th and what,
27th.
work for you, Sue?
15th does. And 27th does.
Doesn't?
It does.
Does.
Yeah.
Okay.
You start back to working.
Oh, I've been working all summer.
I'll have it.
I have, yeah. I don't get this one.
So when you go to the jury and they ask you questions,
If the officer arrested him, he's gotta be
Okay. I just
Okay,
figured I'd know everybody, so I could have it that way
guilty.
too.
That works too.
You know, a lot of criminals.
okay, so,
I'm afraid I
so
do.
what time is our workshop on the 17th?
3:30?
And I promised to do an outline. Okay. And I believe, yeah, we may have part of the executive, we get into some real things, but the bulk of it is I really hope we don't get sidetracked, because I want it to be a training,
Right.
not,
I almost brought that up with her tonight.
yeah, because I did email back Chris and I said, it's fine, but I don't want to end up spending an hour on this, and then we blow the opportunity to, okay. Okay, too much going on. Are we ready to adjourn? Do we have anything else?
Just a whole mess of things to sign.
Yeah, well, we can sign those.
Yep.
Those are motions. Oh, the question.
I just had a question. You had said that the library was gonna get an owl.
Yeah, we already approved it.
Oh, yeah, I haven't ordered it, but yeah.
Okay.
I went on vacation.
Oh, wait a minute now. So is that in the adjustment number on the ARP funds? No, you
No,
haven't paid it. So that's already committed. And how much is that roughly?
they're around $1,000.
And we might need a TV.
I think this one might work.
Kind of thought that one.
Yeah, but we might need it.
Yeah.
So we got actually 1,000 or a couple thousand less than, let's not lose sight of that. So, okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
For discussion? All those in favor? Good luck with the pokey tomorrow.
Okay. Can you send me a picture of the cover of the,
Yes, I can, now that it is fixed. Because it was overflowing.
And that's what counts as it
On
started.
top of it, so that's why I was printed extra, but today it looks good.
okay.
Has anybody gone up to the cemetery and looked at that?
I drive on it every day, I love it.
Huh?
I go by it.
Did you, have you gone and looked at it? Looks great.
Yeah.
I spiced out the thingies,
Oh,
the
the
numbers,
thingies.
they're like, they're gonna be.
We're not recording though.
um,
Not in the maps.
They're